Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our time together today. I am Lori Lamantia, and I'm here with the beautiful Trisha Fisk. How you doing?
Morning, everybody. I'm good.
And today we have a topic we've called Embrace the Fork um, as a part of the conscious creating process. And today we're going to be talk about how opportunities or situations or maybe even challenges come up in our lives that seem like, oh, what the fork? And it makes us wonder what's up with that. And we want to talk about that very specifically so that we, as conscious creators, can understand how this we can use these forks, these crossroads, these situations that seem to make us feel like a victim, but really they might just be a part of our conscious creating process. And of course, how to work with them in a way that is in our highest and best good and the highest and best good of our lives and the people around us. So, Trisha, I'm going to turn it over to you, and because I think you have a very specific story you want to tell, which is a really beautiful way to kick this off.
Sure. So it's been clear since post COVID that the yoga world is changing again. And it's not unusual. I mean, I've been doing yoga for over 20 years. Um, Actually more like 27 years, but
You're still a young youth.
right. And I've seen it go through changes before. It went through change when Jane Fonda came up with all her exercise and stuff,
Her
and
leotard.
her leotard. And 9/11, there was a big change in yoga and how it went, and in its post COVID, it's really happening again. And the yoga used to be based in a lot of tradition. You're part of a specific tradition, and you study with teachers who are in that tradition. You get to know um, their their specific meditations, their mantras, their prayers, if you will. Um, but you follow a particular tradition and really embrace and dive into it. That's kind of going away. A lot of yoga studios today don't want to talk about that stuff, and they seem to be trending more towards fitness based programs. And I think some of that is because, again, during COVID, a lot of yoga studios shut down and went strictly online for a while, but a lot of fitness places managed to stay open. So yoga studios are kind of moving in that direction. They want clients, obviously, and they want to stay open. But it's also sad, I think, because what you see now, and I get asked this a lot from students, is if they go on and just start Googling or YouTubing yoga stuff, salutations, um, poses, mantras, prayers, it's really all over the place because it's not so much supported by a tradition anymore. It's individuals just going their own way and pulling stuff from where they like it. And I have to also be clear that when I first started going through teacher training, Google did not exist. So everything
Right,
came from books, right?
right, right.
You had to
And the
look up
tradition,
books
the traditional
and the
teachings.
tradition, right? So the world has really changed and information is out there. And a lot of people, quite honestly, just make up their own stuff.
Hmm.
And I've even been asked before, why do I do the meditations I do? Why don't I make up my own meditations? And it's because I'm part of a tradition that I respect and I want my tradition to continue and continue to support people. So I have been doing 200-hour teacher trainings for yoga teachers for over 15 years. And that is the beginning teacher training. There are more advanced programs that you go into, but it's learning the basics. And of course, as part of the basics, we're not just talking about asanas or the physical postures, but history, philosophy, energetics, a lot of things. Energetics, like when you leave a yoga class calm and stable, or you leave a yoga class all excited and energized. What is the teacher doing? How are they using these yogic principles to help bring out that energy? Um, that stuff's kind of going away. It makes me sad. It's leaning more
Well,
into
I think sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but
no. Go ahead.
because I've gone through the trainings, and the thing, and I don't teach anymore. But I so appreciated the science behind the tradition. I think people forget that there is, they get kind of caught in it's a religion or a tradition that way. But there's a lot of science around the energy and the alignment and the body wisdom that is taught in a what I'll call a good or a really thoughtfully well-rounded teacher training that isn't just about asana and doing the gymnastic stuff. It's really comprehensive science. And I think people kind of lose track of that because they're trying to get, a certificate so I could go train yoga in 6 weeks or whatever the heck. And so I
Right.
really want to honor that there is a brilliance and a wisdom that's been passed down that is very valuable.
Yes, and there is science behind it, and it's starting to get more studies are starting to come through that back that up, particularly pranayama and how beneficial pranayama is. I'm I'm working with some people who are therapists, and they're looking at how specific yoga practices are very therapeutic for people
Mhm.
with trauma. And anyway, so yes, the science stuff is starting to come forward. But what I'm seeing is more of the fitness based stuff starting to come out too. And I respect that yoga studios want to stay in business. I really do. But I think there's room for both.
Mhm.
I think there's room for both. Anyway, so I have been teaching this program. The program is Prairie Yoga's teacher training program. It's a 250-hour beginning basic teacher training program. And I've been teaching it at a particular studio for 5 years. I've been the main teacher. And I was just recently told that the next time they teach this program, they want to replace me with one of their own teachers who, by the way, has not taught this program before. And so back to conscious creating.
Mhm.
Here I
And the
am at a
fork.
and the fork in the road, right? Here
Right.
I am at this fork in the road. Um, and it came as a surprise. I mean,
And
we
shock.
and shock, yes. And wasn't handled particularly graciously, but we'll stay away from that one. So it's what Lori and I have been talking about is so at this fork in the road, what are ways to help support me as I was running right off to the right, and the fork in the road is taking me off to the left. So what are the ways I support myself, honor myself as I take the fork in the road and go the other way from what's familiar and comfortable
And what you had been
to
planning
me?
on
And you're right.
and what you had invested a lot in. I mean, you've invested, like you said, over 20 years in becoming a master yoga teacher. And a big part of that has been, this teacher training you've become very adept and skilled at, and a lot of people take the teacher trainings because of you, because of your skill, because of your knowledge, because of your wisdom, and because of your energy. I mean, I really want to honor and respect and, you know, p bow my head to what you've created as a yoga teacher. And so when life, and I think this fork thing is a pretty interesting word because I think a lot of people in the government right now got an email about, what are you going to do with this fork? And the fork basically says all that energy and direction that you've been going in, it's pretty much stopped. It feels like somebody
Right.
slammed the brakes on, and now psh, you're gonna get jettisoned into a whole different trajectory, let's say. And I would admit, and I've had these experiences, you feel like, what the fork? Why did this happen? How did I create this? Did I have a hand in it? Am I just a victim? And then you can go through all and allow yourselves to go through the stages of grief, which it has anger and rage, and there's a lot to a forking situation, which I want to also honor, as
Right.
a
And we
part of
do,
this.
yes, we do absolutely need to honor our feelings. Um, talk it out with people you love and trust. Um, and then ultimately, though, how do you help? And for me, the way I see it is okay, so my logical, rational mind has been going in one direction and it knows how to do that easily. So putting the brakes on to go to the left, like what are ways to support myself as I move into new territory? I
Mhm.
stayed true to my tradition, but opened myself up to change. And I don't know what that is yet.
Right, right, right. And
Right.
new possibilities. And,
Mm,
I think we had this experience probably when we first started working together, when we started creating conscious creating. We had come to a fork at that
mm-hmm.
time. And and sometimes the best place you can start with is exactly where you're at. I feel this way, but I would
Right.
rather feel that way. Sometimes what we don't want informs us exactly of what we do want. And the clarity that comes, well, I really liked these things about teacher training. And in the Conscious Creator book, we talk about don't want and then flip it to want. There's a table in the book about, okay, these are all the things I don't want, but these are all the things I didn't like that I would like to flip into what I do want. And of course, these are the things I want to keep, the energy of camaraderie and the feeling like I was mattering and making a difference or whatever. We
Mm-hmm.
get that new, fresh list based on what we knew before. And it's okay to take some time putting that list together. Boy, I didn't appreciate this, or I didn't really like that, or what I've been creating is more of this, and then we have a clear list that helps us not only invest in that, but also feel freer, lighter, excited for the new possibilities that are brought up by the fork.
Right. And yeah, so it's number one, I would say stay away from assumptions
Hmm.
that there's any kind of failure involved.
Right.
Stay away from that.
Yeah, don't do that to yourself. Shame
Yeah,
and
no.
guilt. Don't
Right.
use your energy. That's such a bad investment of your energy.
Right. And it isn't what causes forks in the road. Forks in the road are caused from, how do I say this clearly? When groups of people start to think away the same way, they create a lot of energy as a group and start to move things. And I'm going to use social media as an example of that.
Mhm.
When on social media, you get a group of people who are suddenly weighing in on something, it starts to create some kind of energetic movement.
Momentum. There's a lot of
Right, right.
momentum. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
good choice of words. And things start to, yeah, things do start to shift that way. So um it's important to be true to yourself, and like Lori was saying, be honest about what in your situation you're happy to let go of, and then what are the things you really love that you're not willing to compromise as you go forward.
Yeah, the
Like I
things
said,
that you like about, right? I love
right, like
teaching. I
my
love the
tradition.
meditation, the
Right.
tradition.
Yeah,
Right. Those
staying
are
true
all
to my
things
tradition.
that can be incorporated. into whatever the new direction is. And that's where the conscious creating part comes in. Like you said, you knew the old direction, you knew what it felt like, you knew what it looked like. This new one is laid out. It's already in the infinite field of possibility. Part of how we create it is we put our attention, we invest in it. We put our attention, energy, and focus. And you don't have to necessarily know what it is. I wrote a book called Success Dreaming, which I used to teach at my entrepreneurship class. And it's like, you might not even know what the business is, but you can do a tremendous amount of investing as I want to be an entrepreneur, and these are the experiences I want to have. You don't even have to know what the business is to success dream. You can success dream as a part of the energy investment process.
Yes. How do you want to feel? What makes you feel vibrant and alive and active and excited? That's so important. It's so important to moving forward on a different fork in the
Yes,
road. Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And once you've gone through a little bit of the grieving process, which is totally okay, because I think there's a lot of juice in there. There's a lot of information. Well, what about, I mean, there's a
Mm.
lot of, woo, which is valuable, and that's why they say anger is very powerful, but directing that anger to where you want to go or what it feels like you want to go, that's all wonderful investment at, juice, let's call it into this, well, this is what I'd prefer, and I'd love to experience this. And then a whole new level of revitalization and excitement will be born, will take shape, will get momentum.
Right. The momentum part is important. And it's also important to stay adaptable. Like there may be a couple of forks in the road before you get to your perfect place.
Right, the
Um,
journey.
yes, the
Yes,
journey itself, which is requires adaptability and openness. And again, being willing to really stay in that present moment and be truthful about how you feel, what feels good, what doesn't, what you want to keep with, what you don't want to keep with. It's important. And I want to be clear here and say too, I have nothing against fitness. I belong to Planet Fitness. I lift weights, I do Pilates, all that stuff, but it's not yoga.
the yoga. It's not the big yoga, the,
Right,
you know, the moksha
right,
yoga, the yoga that brings you in the intention of yoga from a tradition perspective is to prepare your body, mind, and energy system to commune with the divine, to be in
right,
alignment with your divine energy. That tradition, that science is built into the yoga you are teaching. What's built into the fitness yoga is strength and, beautiful bodies. I mean, I go to this yoga class and there's so many gorgeous, beautiful bodies that are just amazing. But it's more like a calisthenic class. I go home and I'm like, okay, and I get it. At different points in your life, you do different kinds of yoga, but the intention of the tradition yoga is always that alignment with your divinity. It's
right, right. Just read any one of the Yoga Sutras, and it's going to
right,
take you that right. That's the destination is what
right,
they call samadhi, and that is that union with the
right.
divine.
And when you're in that divine union place, everything you want to create, any action you want to take becomes perfectly wonderful. You go out in the world and you dance in a different way, you play in a different way. You can interact with anything in a different way. When you are in that samadhi aligned place, life unfolds in such a magical way. You can be doing the exact same actions in a not so samadhi way and, get really different results. Same action, I go to
Right,
yoga, I do the poses, I come out and I feel good. I go to yoga and I apply the energy principles. I come out and I feel divine and empowered and powerful. They're very different. And
Yes.
and what we've been talking about here, especially with everyday prosperity, is starting to get comfortable with that nuanced energy that so many of us are, the grossness of life, can be a distraction. Moving into the subtle body. That's the other beautiful thing of a traditional yoga practice is it makes you aware of all that subtle energy that is moving.
Right. And how you're a part of it, how you interact with it,
Right.
how you move through it, right? All of those things. It becomes comfortable, a partnership, if you will.
It's a dance. It truly
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And that's so, and when we get to a fork in the road, and I get feeling like, what just happened? Why did this happen? Those are all legitimate questions. But I also think, and this is where it really takes some cosmic maturity, is to go, well, this must work, this must be the right thing at this time, and dig a little bit for, well, where is the gift? Where is the the freshness? We talked about before we started that there is a space that gets freed up, the void, this emptiness. And inside of the emptiness is, anything can blossom and everything can blossom.
Right.
So don't be scared of the void or the emptiness that's created when the fork happens.
Right. Just because you know something and it's comfortable doesn't mean it's perfect for you
At this time
at this time.
and
Right.
going forward. It was perfect
Yeah.
to this point, and now something else wants to come along, and you get freed up, and you get to think about what you really want to create. And I really do think at the point when you hit the fork, sometimes you don't necessarily want to jump into all the action that your mind wants to do. You might want to spend 3 days or 3 weeks marinating in my success dream without any expectation of outcome, without any expectation, because the first thing you probably want to do is, okay, well, how do I recreate that revenue stream? I mean, and, of course, the assumption is, of course, the revenue stream will be recreated. And, and I want to feel like I'm, honoring the tradition or whatever it is, and I
Right.
want to feel magical and amazing and abundant and in my sweet spot. And then you take the one step. This feels like a good idea today. This feels like fun today. This, without the demand of it's got to look like this,
Right.
which
Right.
is really hard to not
Yeah.
have a know exactly where you're going, or you think you
It
know.
yeah, it is challenging, but it also it's a way you kind of get to know. I mean, let's face it, our dreams, desires, actions change as we age. The things that make me happy are not all the same things that made me happy 20 years ago.
Right.
Um, yeah,
Hmm.
I so what are those things now? Present
Right.
moment. Yeah, in
Yes.
this time.
Yes. And
Yeah.
and you don't know what those are, but I think you could be assured, and this is, part of being a conscious creator, that life is working with you to help to support those dreams. And actually has one of the things we talked about in Yoga Nidra last week was, and probably you've been dreaming too small. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when you really align to your divinity, there's and I don't want to overwhelm people with, it's got to be a huge dream, but you're on the road now when when this fork comes to something magical and unexpected that your little mind couldn't possibly have um, tried to, force you into.
Yeah. I think for most of us, allowing ourselves to really feel and think big is a gift we don't often give ourselves enough.
And sometimes a fork comes along and says, Yeah,
You're going
well,
to kind of have to do it,
it's
right?
time.
Right.
Sorry, but get your teddy bear out and hug it and then go, okay, I'm ready. We can do it.
Right.
Be kind with yourself and be gentle and be gracious. And like you said, don't try not to. And you'll of course go through bouts of anger and resentment and fear and all those, stuff that wants to pull you down. But also give yourself those moments of dreaming of your success, dreaming of your joy, dreaming of the things that are juicy. And they don't have to be directly aligned to where you're going. If as long as you know the juicy stuff for yourself, you're on the yellow brick road. That is the yellow brick road. Follow
Right.
it, take it one
Follow
step
it,
at a time.
feel it. Yes. Move into your heart, invite the divine. Whatever, pray, meditate, go for a run,
Right. Whatever works
whatever.
for you. And the
Yes.
whole time, know everything is working out for me. I am divinely loved and cherished. And this too will turn into something beyond my expectations. Anything I could have crafted for myself. You know, I think it was Yogi Berra that said, when you come to a fork in the road, take it.
Mm,
Sometimes we take it and sometimes it's given, it's handed to us. Um, but forks can be really magical times when we weren't realizing that we're ready for something different. And I do believe that there's tremendous success for every one of us because we are divine, wonderful energies that have, taken on bodies to physicalize everything, to physicalize those dreams into tangible reality. And that is divine play.
yes.
So I hope everyone is feeling the energy of how you can turn a moment that feels like a what the fork into a moment. I love that. I don't know why it just feels like the right thing. Um, into a time of possibility and dreaming and not pushing ourselves too soon. Let yourself marinate in this is what I would love to feel on a day-to-day basis. This is how I would love, these are the people, the kinds of energy people I would love to hang out with. This is the kind of success experience I would love to have. And I am open to, as I knock on the door opens and says, okay, hey, seek and you shall find. I
Right. There's
don't
a,
doubt that at all for any of us.
I agree. And there a saying from Pandit Rajmani Tigunaya, who's the spiritual head of the Himalaya Institute in Honesdale, Pennsylvania. Don't meditate on something, meditate as it. So
Yeah.
don't think about what you might like.
One
Think
thing, yeah,
about
right.
yourself owning it and
Yeah,
being
as
it.
it.
And yes,
Yes.
as it.
Yes. You know what? Maybe that's what we're going to do next week is spend the time talking about being it, not think it's of course thinking about it, but when you meditate, you put yourself in that reality. You're you're doing it. You're living it. You're living the joy, you're living the fun, you're living the play, you're living the abundance. It's not you don't doubt it, you know it.
Right.
Is there anything else you want to add to this before we close out?
Well, I'd like to just that reminder from Adi Shankara that the
Mm.
world is beautiful because it is a manifestation of the most beautiful one. Life is a gift from the divine. I am a part of the divine. The world is an endless ocean of ambrosia. My body is but an island. All that happens is waves rising and falling, neither inauspicious nor meaningful.
Mm.
So jump in.
Yes, right. Absolutely, everyone. So use the fork in the roads that come into your life and realize you are very powerful and you can consciously create, and let those forks be an opportunity for you to remember and remind yourself of the power investor that you really are.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Have a wonderful week. Namaste and
Svaha.
swaha.